Welcome back to Buck's Garage, and I'm really excited for this episode because today we are going to be getting rid of these pitted, curb rashed, way too small OEM wheels. So you may have noticed in previous episodes that the wheels on this car are a little less than great. For one, they're 18-inch wheels, and by modern standards, that's just way too small. 19 would be okay, 20 is even better. Some cars now have 21, 22-inch wheels, so these are a little dated. And when I bought the car, the previous owner had not been real nice to them. They've got curb rash, they've got pitting on them, they're just really not in very good shape. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you can see there's just a lot of pitting on here, a lot of finish flaking off, some pretty decent curb rash all the way around. These things are in rough shape. Now they could be reconditioned, but like I said, I think they're too small and the style is not my favorite either. So I'm gonna keep these as winter wheels. I've got my snow tires on them. And today I'm gonna upgrade these to some better aftermarket 20-inch wheels. Now, if you've ever looked for new wheels for your car, you know that the biggest thing is fitment. What's gonna fit in there, what kind of tire is gonna fit in there, how much sidewall are you gonna lose to go to a 20-inch wheel over an 18-inch wheel. So today I'm going to try to take some of the mystery and the guesswork out of that for you and show you how I did it, and hopefully that'll help you out too. Okay, so first things first, we're going to do some measuring on the car. And what I've done here is I've just set up a weight on a piece of fishing wire, and I'm trying to keep that away from the wheel here. And I'm just trying to get an idea of how much space I have from the outside of the fender where that fishing line is mounted to my wheel and my current tire. So I've got this ruler that I got off of Amazon that shows millimeters, which helps a lot when you're looking at wheel measurements. So I just put that here on the wheel, get a measurement there. I'm showing about 9 millimeters on the wheel and then about 9 or 10 on the tire. So that gives me a good idea of how far I want to come out with my offset to get a more flush fit than what the stock wheels provide. I'll show you that the next part that is a bit of a challenge on this car is there's not a whole lot of room between the current tire and the airbag perch. I've got 14 millimeters from the current tire tread to that perch. Now on the non-Airmatic cars, that is a metal strut perch that you can actually bend up with a hammer just to get a few more millimeters. But since this car is Airmatic, it's got plastic here, so there's really no adjustment there. I might be able to file it down a little bit if I had to, but I really don't want to. So I'm going to try to stay within that 14 millimeters. Now moving on to the back side of the car, I've done the same thing with my weight and my fishing line. I've got it taped on my fender here. I'm going to take the same measurement from the wheel back here, which I'm showing about 20 millimeters, and about 21, 22 millimeters from the tire. A challenge on this car is it really just doesn't have very wide hips. As you can see, there's really not much flare there. So I'm not going to be able to get as much offset as I want in the back. I really like a wheel that has a good concave look to it. And I just don't have a whole lot of room to play here. I've only got the 20 millimeters and I don't want to come out too much further than this fender flare. So I'm not going to get quite as much dish as I want on this back wheel, but we are going to be able to go a lot wider. Last measurement to worry about is on the inside of the wheel where the suspension meets. And because I'm coming out with my offset on both front and rear, I don't really have an issue with that. Best way to check that is to get in and get your tire turned all the way and then see how much room you've got between the current strut and the inside of your wheel or tire. Now I've got about 15 millimeters clearance currently between the strut and the inside of the wheel and tire. But I'm going to be coming out with my offset and I'm going with the same 8.5 inches in the front, so I'm not going to have any issues running into that strut in the front. All I've got to worry about is making sure that I meet the lip here and don't come out too far so I don't have any rubbing issues. Okay, so now that we've got our measurements off the car, we've measured out to the fender flares, we've measured from the top of the strut cup, and we've measured from the actual strut itself to the inside of the wheel, front and rear on both sides. Now it's time to go inside and work on the computer. Most of your research and measurements and calculations are going to be done online, and I'm going to show you the websites to use to do that. So let's get that part done, and then we'll get to the fun part where we reveal the new wheels and tires I've got for this thing. Okay, so now that we have our measurements off the car, we are going to do some calculations to determine what size aftermarket wheel and tire we want to run on the car. And the first thing I like to do is see how the new wheel and tire will compare to the stock OEM size. So the OEM size on this car was a 245/40/18, and in the front I wanted to go with a 245/35/20. So I plugged that in and it tells me the difference between these two tires. So I know that it's going to be about 1.1 inches more in diameter. The width is going to be the same in the front, and then the part that I'm most concerned with is right here in the sidewall. So obviously going to a 20-inch wheel, we're going to lose some sidewall and comfort and all that. But by going with this bigger 245/35, a lot of people will go with a 245/30 up front. I'm only losing half an inch of sidewall. So I'm really not that concerned about losing ride quality and having issues cracking wheels on potholes and that sort of thing, because I'm only losing that half inch of sidewall in the front. So this is my preferred front tire size. Moving on to the back, we again have our OEM wheel and tire size here. And I wanted to go with a 285/30/20 in the back. So again, we see that I'm gaining about 1 inch in diameter. I'm gaining quite a bit in width, so obviously that 285 is going to be a lot wider. But again, I have about a half an inch of sidewall that I'm losing by going with this 20-inch wheel. It also gives you a nice visual representation of the difference between the OEM wheel and taller sidewall and the new 20-inch. So my car is a 4MATIC, which means that my tires should be the same circumference from the front to the rear, because otherwise it can do damage to your all-wheel drive system. So that is part of where I came up with my tire sizes for the front and the rear. My 245/35/20 and my 285/30/20 are very close in diameter. We've got 26.8 inches and 26.7 for a difference of 0.4%. My width is obviously a lot different from the front to the back, but my sidewall is the same at 3.4, and that diameter is really close. Some of the AMG cars came with 4MATIC and a staggered setup, and they were within like 1 to 2% difference in diameter. So me being at 0.4%, I'm well within spec on Mercedes 4MATIC systems, so I'm really not too worried about hurting that 4MATIC setup. You can do these same calculations with a 19-inch wheel and tire. I wanted to go with a 20, especially since I'm only again losing that half inch of sidewall. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go over to wheelsize.com. I'll have all these links in the description below. And here we're going to plug in the current size of tire and rim and offset that we have on the car. And then we're going to play with this side to see what we can fit as far as aftermarket goes. So over here we're going to take the measurements we took off the car. So on the front of my car I had 10 millimeters of fender clearance, that's out to the fender flare. I had 14 millimeters between my tire and that strut cup, and then I had about 15 millimeters between the suspension and the inside of that wheel and tire. So I am running those snow tires that are a different size than stock, so I've got 235/45/18 on an 8.5 inch wide rim and an offset of 48, because that is the offset of my OEM wheels. So I take my new front tire size of 245/35/20 on again an 8.5 inch wheel, and I'm going to try an offset of 35 and see where that puts me on this new setup. Now if you scroll down, it will tell you exactly what's going to happen with your setup. So my tire is going to stick out 18 millimeters further, the rim will stick out 13 millimeters farther. I know I have 10 millimeters to the outside of that lip, so add in a little bit of positive camber and I'm pretty close with that 35 offset. The wheels will fill out the wheel well by an extra 5 millimeters, and I know I have an extra 14 millimeters to play with, so I'm okay on that. And then I'm 100% clear of my suspension. I'm leaving even more room than the OEM wheels. So I know that this wheel and tire size is going to fit on the front of my car. You can play around with this offset and see where that moves you and what is going to fit. 35 worked for me. I thought 40 originally, but my wheel manufacturer recommended 35, and that seems to have worked just fine. Moving on to the back wheel, again we've got the OEM wheel, tire size, rim width, and offset. And now we've got my 285/30/20 on a 10-inch rim with a 45 offset. And I've got 20 millimeters of fender clearance in the back. I've got plenty of wheel wear clearance, no issue there, and plenty of suspension clearance in the back, so I can run pretty much whatever I want as far as that goes. So really we're just looking at the fender clearance here. My tire is supposed to stick out 28 millimeters further, and my rim is right at 22. And I measured at 21 to 22 on my current wheel, so that is right where I want to be. All of this was confirmed by my wheel manufacturer. I did check with them, and based on the model of my vehicle, they recommended this 45 and 35 offset. But this is a really handy tool to figure out exactly where you want to be as far as offset and rim width. If I'd gone up to a 10.5 inch rim width, I'd have to change my offset here. If I was going to go with a skinnier rim, like a 9 inch, again the offset would change. So this is a great tool to be able to figure out all those measurements yourself and have a good idea of what you're looking for when you go to talk to your wheel and tire manufacturer. Last part of that is if you are looking to see what's out there as far as wheels, there's a couple good websites for that. I recommend Car ID. You can put in your type of vehicle and they'll show you all kinds of different wheels that are available. And then also Fitment Industries is another good option. They've got tons of wheels to choose from. So it gives you a good idea of what's out there as far as color, design, that sort of thing. However, I do recommend going local if you can. This is the outfit that I bought my wheels and tires from. They are local to me. It was an easy phone call to just get a hold of them. They had the access to the wheels that I wanted, and they had the tire sizes that I wanted. They got it all put together for me, mounted, balanced, all that whole thing. So I would definitely recommend going local if you can. If you can't, then these other websites work really well. All right, so we had a little mix up with the tire shop about getting some footage of getting these tires mounted on these new wheels, but you guys all know what that looks like anyway. So the important part is the new tires are mounted on the new wheels, TPMS sensors all balanced up. And yes, you can get 4 20-inch wheels in a W212, but you got to get a little bit creative. So right now we are headed back to Buck's garage. We're going to get these things put on the car, and then we'll get the big reveal, so stay tuned. This is what I've got. I got the Rohana RFX 1.2, I believe. And that's what it looks like. Check that out. So that's a front wheel. This one is a 20-inch by 8.5 wide and is an ET35, and it has a 245/35/20 on it. So that's what I'm running for front spec. This is a rear wheel. This one is a 20 by 10, and it is a 45 offset, and it has a 285/30/20 on it. Just look at the difference between the 18 and the 20 that's going on this thing. This is gonna be a really big upgrade. I did a lot of thinking about what size tire to go with this thing. I wanted the tire to pretty much match up with the rim here, and these have worked out great. This 245/35 on the 8.5 inch wide wheel is just right. It's just almost even with that outside lip. So you don't have a lot of poke from the wheel, and you also don't have a lot of poke from the tire. It's all just nice and even. Same thing on the back. And then on the back tire, got a little bit more tire poke on this one, going with this 285. I've had 275s on a 10-inch before, and those looked pretty good. So this 285, it's a little bit more of a tire lip, but it still looks good. And I like having that big wide tire in the back there. I think that's gonna look really nice. These are the Continental DWS 06 Sport Plus tires. Big fan of these tires, nice and quiet, good grip, good tread life. So last thing is just to make sure these things fit on the car. So I'm gonna get to work on that, and then we'll do the reveal on the car. Okay, so this wheel is on there about finger tight now, and before I get it set down and torqued up, I want to show you how it's fitting. So the major point of concern here was this strut cup, and as you can see, I've got a good finger's width of space in there, so I am not worried about that at all. And that higher offset brought the wheel further away from the strut, so I should have plenty of room as far as that goes. But so far this 245/35/20 is fitting great. All right, the front tires and wheels are on and torqued to spec, and let's just look at the difference between the new ones and the old ones. Check that out. 20 inches on the front, stock 18 inches on the rear. Looks great. So I did go ahead and weigh the wheels and tires, and crazy enough, the 18-inch OEMs with the snow tires on it were about 50 pounds for the whole setup, and this new setup on the front is exactly 50 pounds as well. So we didn't gain any weight by going to the bigger wheel and tire. So I'm pretty happy with that, but let's check out this fitment here. That is just about perfect. See a little bit of tire poke. Not much, just about right. I think the only thing left to do is to drop it in the front a little bit, and it may settle in once I get the car started and get the Airmatic readjusted. But if not, I will drop that down just a little bit in the front. But other than that, I am pretty happy with this setup. Oh, one quick thing I wanted to show you guys, just a quick tip. Something I recommend doing is to take either your socket or your security key or whatever you're using and just wrap it in electrical tape, and that will keep you from scratching up the inside of those lug holes on your new wheels. Simple, easy to do, and just gives you a little bit softer surface so you're not scraping metal on metal when you're putting those lugs in. Kind of saves the look of your wheels a little bit. So I'm gonna get the rear on and then we'll wrap this up. Okay guys, real quick, before I finish up the last wheel, I just want to show you the difference in the width on these rear tires. So check out again the fitment on the OEM wheel. These are just 8.5-inch rims with it's currently got a 235 tire on it. Came with a 245 from the factory, but kind of skinny. Doesn't look real great from the back. Check out this new one. Just looks super cool with that much wider rear wheel. And the fitment is spot on. It's just like right there. Just a little bit of tire poke. Just almost perfect. A little bit of concave. I would have liked to have some more concave on the rear wheel, but it looks good. And with these skinny hips, that's just about all you can do. I mean, there's just not much room to work there. So I'll get this the one put on and we'll wrap it up. I am super happy with how that turned out. Really good fitment in the front, just a little bit of tire poke. Just about perfect in the rear. Just sitting nice and flush. I'm really happy with the tire sizes. I didn't lose a lot of sidewall from the stock tires, as you can see, so I'm not too worried about beating up these rims. Should have plenty of sidewall to still have a comfortable ride and to protect those wheels. Only thing I might do different in the future is we did end up with just a little bit of wheel poke on the front. So, given how much space I had in there, I think I might be able to get away with a 255 up front instead of the 245, which would mean I'd have to go bigger in the back to make sure I maintain that circumference for the all-wheel drive system. But these will work fine for now. Next set of tires, I might like it going a little bit wider in the front with that tire. But I'm pretty happy with that. It's really not much wheel poke at all. Not much stretch on there, so I'm pretty dang happy. I'm gonna keep these for winter wheels, so I'll put these back on next time the snow is gonna fly. But really, really happy with these. Quick tip, if you are gonna have two sets of wheels, one for summer, one for winter, storage is always an issue. So what I've done is I've got this wall-mounted rack. This came from Costco. It's about 50 bucks, I think. It's super strong. These are the BMW winter wheels I've got hanging on this one. I ordered another one for this set of wheels, so I'm just gonna put that on the wall next to there. Keep those up and out of the way. Works really good, looks good, and keeps them off your garage floor so you got plenty of storage space. So that wraps up how I went about going and getting new wheels and tires for my W212 Mercedes. I hope that helps you if you're looking at getting aftermarket wheels on your car. There's a lot of calculations and a lot of stuff that goes into picking the right tires and the right wheels, fitment, offsets, all of that. But if you sit down and think about it and do some good measuring, it's not too hard and the results turn out great. So hope that helps you guys out. But for now, thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.